Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Twin Karmakar from Better Programmer, hoping to be a better programmer with you. Alright, so long story short, in this channel, what we are going to primarily do is to learn how to code in a better way, how to be a better programmer essentially by integrating multiple different technologies into one, building really smart solutions, and to demonstrate that hey, programming is one of the most easiest tasks ever made for humans. Alright, so without any further ado, let's jump into it. So in this first video, I would like to show you how easy it is to build something. And for this example, let's now build a currency converter which is going to take INR value, which is Indian rupee, and convert it to US dollars. Okay, so okay, let's just jump into our Sublime edit, a text editor maybe. And okay, before writing any sort of code, how we are going to solve it? So essentially, what we're going to do, we are going to take INR as our input, and once we are done that, we will do the conversion, and then we will print out the US value. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much it that we need to do. So these are the tasks that we are going to do. So okay, so as of now, so how do we basically convert it? So the process of converting one currency into another currency is to have something known as base conversion value. All right, you have something known as your base conversion value, and whenever you multiply this base conversion value with your INR value, you get your main USD value. Cool. All right, so there is something known as base conversion value. We now get this idea. Alrighty, so now let's just figure it out what this base conversion value looks like. So at the time of recording this video, 1 INR is like 0.013 US dollars. All right. So our base conversion value becomes this. Now the next thing that we are going to do is to take the input. So we are going to say INR value, or maybe just caps it INR value. So our INR value is now going to be taken as an input, which should say enter INR value. Okay. And this should return us a string. We should be typecasting it to float. Okay, so quick note, in case you do not know what is a float or what are these things, like what is a string. So this quick demonstration would be, so anything within a quotes is a string. Okay, anything without a quote, and if it is a number, then it is integer, given that it does not have any decimal point, and any number with a decimal point is considered as floats. Alrighty, okay, let's just comment this lines and have it for a reference. So the input would return as a string, but yeah, we are primarily interested into float, so let's just convert it into float. All right, so do the math because okay, cool. So now that we have our INR value, what we would like to do to get the converted value? So pretty much it's like take the INR value, multiply it with the base conversion value. That's all we need to do, and perhaps store the result in another variable. Say let the variable be USD value, and once you have that USD value, all you are gonna do is print that USD value along with a message say hey USD value is that, or maybe just converted USD value as that. All right, so let's quickly go and test it out. So here we run our program. It asks for the INR value. We say we give 100, and it says hey, you have your USD value over here. So this program works, right? Okay, so it was simple, wasn't it? It was pretty much all these three steps. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. So now the thing is like, in order to use this program, all that we have to do is to run it through a command line, right? All right, so let's now level up this program and take it to a further level by not just running this inside a command prompt, but maybe just take it and run it in a browser so that other peoples can use it. Make sense? Alright. So how we are going to do that? So the core idea is to have an HTML file so that we can display it here and then have a button in an input area where the user would be able to like give that input and finally get that output like as like the converted USD value. Okay, so let's jump into it. So here we are in our HTML file. So we are going to write an HTML. So in case you do not know, then just a quick heads up. HTML has two main parts. One is a head and another one is a body. Head has to have a title. So okay, so let's just name it as currency converter. Okay, and just maybe one randomly. Okay, so currency converter. Okay, so refresh, yeah, and there you go. You have written successfully your first HTML. Cool. Next, what else do we need? Just as we planned before, we need an input of type text because the user are essentially going to input a text. This should give us an input field where we can type literally anything. Okay, great. Next, what we're gonna do is basically we do not know what like why this is given. That is, the user does not really know why do this input is given to him. So let's add a label for him so that this makes the things more accessible to him. Okay, so let's add a label, and for label let's just use this string that we have used earlier in our Python code. So now we have that. See, okay. Later, after this, what we're gonna do is we wanna have a button. A button should say suppose convert. Okay. So now we have our label, one input field, and a convert. So ideally, the third idea is to whenever the button is clicked, it would like convert whatever be the INR value that is being written over here and convert it into the corresponding USD. Okay, so maybe for that let's just have one more area where we can output our content. So converted USD would be this. Okay, so we want to write something here, say 100. We will click it and we want our converted USD to be printed after this. Okay, great. So how do we do that? So basically we cannot write just plain like logic. Like HTML is just a markup area. Okay, so just because it is a markup language, we cannot really write any form of this kind of programming logic here. So for that we have to have use JavaScript. How do we use JavaScript? So we use JavaScript in HTML. If we want to embed it inside a HTML, then we can use a script tag. Okay, and for type text JavaScript. Okay, and then we write our JavaScript code over here. Makes sense? Now consider we have a function. The function is convert. Hypothetically, one magical function is convert, and this convert does the conversion. Okay, this does the conversion for me, and when it is being run, and every time I click on the button. Okay, so this says, hey button, whenever you are clicked, run this convert function. Okay, this convert function is defined here. Now how do you like what should be the content of this convert function? Essentially this is going to be still the same. The task one, the first task is going to be like take the input. Once you have the input, oops, once you have the input, uh, do the conversion, and then lastly print the conversion. Right? Makes sense? Completely as simple as we have done in our Python area. So let's just copy this and paste it here, and we will do our necessary modifications though. Okay, so we have our base conversion value. Okay, so how do we write a variable in JavaScript? Basically by just declaring it by saying let. Okay, there are other ways to do it, but for now let's just stick to let. All right, so and you have to use a semicolon. Alrighty, next you want your INR value to be something, and then you want your USD value to be something, and then you want it to print. Okay, let's make one more thing. Now the thing is like, previously this Python code was taking the input from a command line. Here on the other hand, in this browser we don't have a concept of a command line. We generally don't have a concept of a command line though. So all we have is this input field. So whatever be the value on written or being there in our input field would be treated as a value for the input of our INR value. Makes sense? So how to do that? In order to get to that, we need to understand one more thing, which is known as document. So now what is the document? Document is pretty simple. Document is essentially your entire content that is being displayed in your browser. Okay. So in this case, see, we have as a body of the document, we have the currency converter, all those things that we have added. So we somehow need to say, find, like uniquely identify this input element, this input tag from the document in the JavaScript. How to do that? Okay, so for that, what we do is we write, hey, we say, hey, document. Okay, or maybe we'll hold on. Let's just first uniquely identify the input. So how to do that? So in order to do that, we use an attribute ID in input. So let's give this input an ID of say INR value. Okay, great. So now this input have a ID value, and we say, hey, document, give me the element whose ID is this INR value. That is this input field. Makes sense? And not, don't just give me this entire input field, just give me the value of it. Make sense? Okay. And the rest of the code is pretty simple now. Now, the next line is like just the conversion, which is essentially the same. Finally, the thing is print. Now in JavaScript, we don't usually do print, we don't use print. So what we use is console.log, which is the equivalent of print. Okay, let's just now get rid of all these comments and refresh. So let's write 100, try convert, and as you can see in the console, we have our value. But hey, one more step to go. We now have access, we now have the function ready, but we don't actually, we're not actually updating our document. That is, we are not placing this 1.3 over here. So let's now do that. How to do that? We want to do it after, right after here, right? Okay, so for that, go ahead and add a span tag. Give the span tag say an ID of say result, and instead of console log, say, hey, document dot, give me the element whose ID is result, and then set its text content, whatever be the content in there, set that to be equals to USD value. Now you refresh the page, you try say same old 100, you convert it, and you get the value. That's simple. Not only that, perhaps you can also do a dollar inside there just to make it look prettier, and then refresh it, or 100th, you have that. See, kind of cool. All right, So just to have a look back to what we have done till now is previously we had this command line stuff, and now our program has leveled up, right? So let's now take it to one more step further. So what would happen if I want to add more currencies? If I want to support more currencies, then how I'm going to do it? So say now this time I want to add euro to it. Okay. So how I can do that? So that's going to be the same as before. So now firstly, I would need one more space for my euro to be written, right? Okay. I have two spaces. Now notice this IDs cannot be now same. So I need to modify my IDs. Let's just name the first one to be USD and the next one to be Euro. Okay. Result is still the same. Okay. All right. But now just because I have modified it, I also have to update this, right? Because now this is no longer result. This is now my USD. And as of now, let's just get rid of this fancy, yeah, symbol. Now let's do to check. Okay, cool. The US logic now works. Now let's the logic for euros. So the logic to convert this into euros would be same as before. Just like we have done this, we will do also this. One more conversion value. So base, so how to differentiate between them? Let's now name them as base conversion value INR to USD. And for this one we might want to call it INR to euro, and the value for it is 0.12. Let's verify. Yeah, it's 0.012. Okay, 0.012. Alrighty, now we also need to multiply correctly, and let's make it a euro value. The euro value would be multiplied by this only, and then we shall update this value over here by the euro value. That's all that we needed to do. Let's try now. Yeah. So as we can see, this works, right? Great. Can we do better, or can we like make this code look more nicer to this? Than this at least? Yeah, so let's give it a try. So we can see that we are like creating this many things, but all this only just belongs to a base conversion for INR. So instead of doing this, a fancier way to do this would be to like have a base conversion table for say INR. Okay, base conversion table for INR, which will be equals to a map, a dictionary, or whatever you want to call it. And whenever we do to USD, we're gonna place the same value 0.013, and whenever we are going to say euros, we're going to place 0.012 and maybe a comma. And now instead of this, how I wanna do is this, and from for INR to USD, oh oops, sorry, USD from for here and to euros to here, and we should also end up having the same result as before. Yeah, good. But now this code looks more readable than before, because now, yeah, we can easily say, hey, this is a base conversion table for INR to USD. Okay, and we are also storing this in this way, which is also essentially same as the before, but yeah, just as I mentioned, this is a fancy way. Anyways, so yeah, so we have done this part also. Let's now take it to another level. Okay, so one thing that we should take into our consideration is like this. Whenever we are converting or using the base conversion table, we are using the static data file, right? We are using a static data and we are not modifying this data. The problems for this would be this value is really not that static. This can change. It sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, right? So this varies over time. Agree? So probably this is not the best way to do it. So in order to fix that and convert it into a dynamic value, there are two different ways. All right. So one way would be to just go to Google after a certain amount of time and maybe search for that conversion factor, and then you just come back and update it here, which would be a like really tedious idea, and I don't really think that makes sense though. Okay, but yeah, another way would be to use an API for it. Now essentially for this we are going to use exchange rates API for okay. So what is an API? An API is a server hosted somewhere else, and your program can talk to the server. To it can ask for some information, it can post some information, but as of now we are only asking the information. Okay, and that what the get means. Okay, so this API says, hey, if you come to this URL and you specify a base value for this, what I'm going to return you with, yeah, okay, let's just show you first. Okay, so what it's going to return me is all the conversion rates from the base. So in this case INR is my base. Let's just zoom it to show you better. Okay, so INR is 1, and I have the conversion ratio like factor or the value for euros, as well as for the USD, and as well as for all this many things. Agree? Okay, cool. So we can use it. Okay, so how, what do you need to do is like now the overview idea is to come here. Okay, is to in the conversion we're gonna do some form of maybe make the API call, then we need to get the data, then use the data to compute the output value though, the output value, and show it. Simple. Instead of this. Okay, so so the thing is like we need to make an API call, right? So how do we make an API call? There can be many different ways to do this, like Axios is there, or you can do jQuery is there, or there is some vanilla JavaScript way of doing that, which is XML HTTP request. But for the sake of simplicity, let's now go with a library known as jQuery. Okay, so we shall use this jQuery. Great. How do we use this jQuery? So we need to use before using the jQuery, we need to tell that our browser that hey, we are also using the jQuery. So how to embed the jQuery? So this is also JavaScript. So as this is JavaScript, the way to do it is to write a script tag. But instead of writing the type of like text JavaScript, what we are going to do, we are going to say, hey, this script is stored not in my computer, or maybe in my it's just stored somewhere else, and I would specify a source for it, and the source for it would be say we will use this copy. So I will copy this, I will paste the source, I will save it, I'll run, come back here and refresh, make sure it still works. Yeah, it does. And I write dollar. If this doesn't throw an error, probably you have successfully imported the script. Okay. So you now need to make an API call. How would you like to make an API call to this? So let's have a look to it. So it says, hey, we are interested to make a GET request. So how do we make the GET request? In jQuery, we say dollar dot and the type of the request. So we are going to use the GET request for now. And this is a shorthand method though. You can see the docs over here, jQuery.get. In order to use it, an example would be to do this. Okay, so this kind of stuff, .get and then blah blah blah. So the general format for this is, let me just copy it from here and paste it there. You need to write .get, $.get, then you need to specify your API URL, then you need to pass any parameters that you want to do, and then you would say, hey, whenever you're done with the request, you do this, right? So let's now write it from scratch. So you're gonna write dollar, then dot get, and then quotes open. In quotes, you're gonna write the API's URL, which is this. You paste that, great. And then also you specify a parameter, right? So what are the parameters that you are willing to send? So it expects a parameter known as base. You say base, and you want to use the base of INR, right? And when you have that, you're gonna say, hey, I wanna, when you are done with that, just take whatever the response that you are getting from the server, and as of now, just console.log, that is inherently just print the response. That's all we need to do. Cool. So this block of code, so now this convert is now attached to our button. So whenever we will click the button, this will get executed. So let's try this out now. So whenever we say this and then write a convert, yeah, so we get something from here. So let's see what it is. So it says, yeah, so essentially we get all the same thing that we were getting on our local like this browser, right? So this is a format of like, this is like, you can think of a dictionary or a hash map of stuff. Like in your response you have rates, in your rates you have this. Okay, so you can also say, do like this, do stuff like this. You can also say, hey, I want to do for, say, let I in, or maybe let okay, let's keep it I for now. Let's I in response, or maybe let the rate, let rate in response dot rates. Was it rates? Yeah, so it was rates. So response dot rates, what you want to do is, I want to, instead of logging the entire response, this time I want to log the rate and the response dot rates of rate. This, or you can also write in like response dot rates dot rate. Yeah, anything works. So now when you refresh and you hit this, instead of that big chunk of data, you're now essentially left with this. Agree? So now you have so plenty of data over here. You have so much things. Now, before going into much details, let's just now do the simpler version, which is all we need is the euro and the USD. So if we say, hey, at this point of time, maybe just take everything and do everything when you are done, when you get a response, maybe up to here, and then yeah, so like this. Now you have that, and okay, perhaps you can also like, yeah, do this, so that just to make it look beautiful. Yeah, cool. And that's pretty much it to it. And now here, what I want to do is, I want to like make this to response dot rates dot USD, and just like that, this would now become response dot rates dot EUR. And I, let's just pray, okay, make a reload, type 100, and yeah, this works. Cool. And perhaps more accurately. So finally, the last thing that I would like to do in this section, at least for the JavaScript section, would be, instead of writing this too many things, we have so much of data over here. So why don't just use every single data just to like do that, just to convert everything into everything. Yeah, you can also do that. Yeah, like that would be probably a overkill though, but yeah, perhaps why not? When you have so much of data, why not just use the data? So one of the ways you can do that would be like, let's just go back some steps before. Let's just undo it to this. Yeah, so this states as this point. Okay, now we are back to the section before where we were at, like we have all the datas, right? Okay, so what we can do is now, instead of console logging these rates, what I say is, hey, I want to calculate like the value. Let a value would be, say let a value, okay, let me say this is a converted value. Okay, because now this is going to be done every time. So now this is a converted value. Converted value would be equals to my INR value. Okay, INR value times the response rates of rates. But wait, I also need to write this INR values. So let's just do it before the for loop. So now I have my INR value and I convert the value. Okay, all right, and then this value would now be replaced somewhere. So instead of doing this, let's just get rid of this unnecessary block. I don't need it now. What I'm gonna do is, perhaps I will create, say, converted, say the conversions. Okay, oh, okay, so this would be a div with class equals to this conversions. Okay, okay, so this is a, or maybe an id, so a div of id conversions. And here basically what we want is, we want to do this. We say, hey, let my conversions div is equals to, let's just make it small. Okay, is equals to, once again, the same old line. We will say document dot get element by id, and then we will do conversions div. Now you have the div. Just to make sure that the div is now cleared, so what you want to do is conversions div dot inner HTML. So whatever be the, it's inside, whatever be like inside of the conversions div, so it would be initially set to empty. So now where you, when you go here, what you want to do is maybe create, do like this, let new, how we are doing this, we were creating an h3, right? So new h3 element would be now equals to a document, and I'm asking document, hey document, create an element for me of type h3. Okay, and in h3 I want this document to, what I want to do is like, hey, I want to say new h3 element dot text content. I want to make its text content to be equals to, say, what we can say, just maybe we can say the rate followed by a space, maybe a colon, and then my converted value. Okay, and once we do that, what we can do is we can say conversions div dot append child. That is, this is now a child, as we can see in the DOM area, like in the documents, like in the second part we can see in that inside a document everything is a document, and in document everything is like a nested tree. So like if conversions is a division, if it is the parent, then everything inside it is a child, right? So we are appending, we are saying, hey, in this division append the new HTML, new h3 element. Okay, and yeah, perhaps try formatting, refresh. Now whenever we write hundreds, convert this. Okay, now we went into some problem. Perhaps have I made any spelling mistake again? Ah, looks like yeah. made some and there you go. You have converted this successfully into so many different formats without breaking a sweat. Yeah, ignore my typos. Alright, so we have done so much of good stuff within a very short amount of time. Congratulations to you. Alright, so now the thing is like the one last thing that I think I missed out is like whenever we are doing like this and putting so much of content, it is pretty troublesome, and yeah, it takes some time to like find the USD and then the euros, right? So I need to navigate and like find among this bunch of areas. So won't it be nice to have something like this kind of a drop down or something where I can select this, like from where I want to convert it to port, okay, so that I only get my relevant informations. So let's just do that. Okay, so how we can do that is basically, so now we do not really need this kind of like a label. So instead of this label, what we're going to do, we are going to place a select tag, okay, and give it an ID form. After that, we will also need a select tag with an ID too, okay. Great. So we now have something like this. We have two empty select tags, that is two empty drop downs, which shall be eventually be populated by all those rates. Like what are those possible options? Okay. So how we can do that? So basically, we want something, we want a function which is to be run whenever this content is being loaded. So this content is loaded in a window, right? It's a browser window. Henceforth, we can say window dot on load. Whenever the window gets loaded, we are going to write a function, and this is essentially like something like this. Okay, so this is essentially like this, but just because of the row syntax, we would generally stick to this. Alrighty. So okay. So now great. So now what else do I need to do? So like see, basically we want to do this same task. Okay. We want to have all this good stuff that we are using for calculations to be done again over here, but the only changes that we are going to do is we won't actually do a calculation in the very first area. So apart from the calculations, what we are going to do is we will say, hey, select from element. We will target these two things. One is a select from element and another is our select to element. Okay, so what are those IDs? Select from element has an ID of form. Select to element is has an ID of 2, and we just need the elements, not the value. Okay, makes sense. Great. Alright, what else do we need to change? We now do not require this. Yeah, so this is a short demonstration of also like how you can like reuse your code, like whatever we have already been written, we are just making slight modifications to it so that we don't end up writing all those stuff again and again. Okay, so now we will have the rate and response rate. Now we don't want this calculation to happen, and instead of a new h3 tag, perhaps I now want to create new option element. Now this option element is going to be created with an option tag. Now I have an option tag. So now this my new new option element, we need to do something on it. So my new option element is now going to contain some value, which is the rate, and this also going to have a text content, which is also going to be the rates. Okay, rate. we don't need to do that. Okay, so now after that, what else do we want? We now want this to be like appended in our like this to select drop downs, right? So how to do that? We already say, we can say, hey, select from element dot append the child of new option element. Okay, now we should also say select to element and append that. This should work just fine, right? Let's see. The first drop down, that is the select from drop down, has nothing, and the select to drop down has everything. So this is kind of a problem. And the reason because is we are using the single element and trying to append a single element to both of them, which is not possible because ideally you can only append one child to one particular parent at a time, right? So instead of that, what we are going to do is, so we are going to use the same, we are going to use new option element copy is equal to our new option element dot clone node, and we will say true, and in the second version we will use the copy. Okay, so now we essentially have two new options created. One is the original one and another one is the copy of the original one, and this should in turn fix us the problem. So see, now this is way more easier to navigate, right? Isn't it? So now you can do this INR, and also you can do this USD, and then try to convert, but see, you still essentially getting everything. Yeah, so that's because we haven't modified our calculation logic. We just added this kind of like populated this area. Okay, so furthermore, going below, all we need to do is to modify our conversion logic. How can we do that? Let's have a look to that API. So see, here we can use specific exchange rate by setting the symbols parameter. We can use something as a symbol parameter to get this value. Okay, so see, we are previously getting this. Now if we use a symbols parameter with INR and USD, see, we get only these two conversions, right? Makes sense? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this, okay, and add another parameter to it and paste this. Okay, now what is going to be inside my symbols? Yeah, so that's something that we need to do. So we can say symbols is equal to symbols, right? But what are my symbols? That's something that we need to figure it out. So how we can do it is by doing this. So like, see, we can again reuse these two things. Okay, we can reuse these two things, and because we will need it. Yeah, so once you have this element, now this time I don't need the form element, I need the select form value, and henceforth I will only use the value, and same goes for this, select to value. All right, so far so good. Now after this, what we're going to do is, like, we have this, so we can use this as just like maybe, or just keep it symbols, and then say let symbols is equals to, I want my select from value to be appended with a comma and with select to value, right? And now my base won't be as INR. Now my base would be select from value, and symbols will be symbols. Okay, I hope this should fix the issue, given that we don't mess up anything. At least I don't mess up anything. Yeah, I hope I become the lucky one, make this code run. All right, so let's just write something and try converting it. Oh, and yeah, okay, we did it. Great, it worked. Let's try with something else. See if it works. Yeah, this also works. Let's try one more time. Maybe 2 euros. And yeah, it works. Yeah, it absolutely works. All right. So now we are way more better than our previous version. Now your users can do a lot more customization. And again, just to remind you from where you started, see, you just started from this static block of lines and from this, and you ended up something of this. See, with a very, very, very short amount of time. Alright, so we have made really great progress today. We have came across a lot of problems and we solved a lot of them within a very short amount of time. And one more thing that might we can do since we have some time, maybe we can take this and do some basic styling on it. Okay, for that basic styling we can use Bootstrap. So for Bootstrap is just a handy CSS like framework. You can build a very basic layout with it. Yeah, all the way up to very large of course. But yeah, anything works. This is good. I don't generally use Bootstrap a lot, but yeah, this is fun to use. Okay, so how to use a Bootstrap? You need to go to Bootstrap documentation or Bootstrap website, then copy the CSS at least, then come back to your HTML, paste that CSS over here, and go to your page and refresh. See, it's already modified. Okay, it's already getting modified. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is perhaps we can say, so the way we style using Bootstrap is by Bootstrap already provides us a bunch of different classes for it, and all we have to do is to add the classes. Okay, add the class names to whatever the elements we want to style, and it would do some form of styling for us. Yeah, but yeah, not all, but okay. So for now, I want to use my H1. So I want my H1 to be placed in center. So text center. Now it's in center. But maybe I will give him some margin. M stands for margin. Y stands for both up and down. I want to give a margin value of 3. So these are some the basic presets that I was talking about a few moments back. Alrighty. Next, next up, I want to create a division over here, which is going to contain all these things, and maybe I will give it a class. Say, do I need to put it in a class? No, maybe not. Maybe let's just not put it in a class. Okay, so let's just say style and say maximum. So we can say maximum width, say 350 pixels. And okay, let's just give it a class of M stands for margin, X stand for both in the X direction, like left and right, and then I would say auto. Okay, so this would like do this for me. And now it's if it's still confusing, it's quite confusing like which part refers to what. So what we can do is like we can take this and we do need to add a label to everything. We can add a label to everything. So this label would be like uh, okay, from, then and here amount. Maybe amount is a good name. Okay, so okay, cool. So let's give it some white space. All right, let's refresh. Okay, we have this as of now. What else we can do? We can go to Bootstrap, search for forms. Yeah, we get the forms. browse through. Okay, if you want to have this kind of stuff, then all we're gonna do is add this class form control to wherever I want it, any form element. So select is a form element, so I can use it here. Input is a form element, I can use it here. Select is also again a form element, I can use it here. Maybe all in the labels, I can also perhaps use a class known as lead. Will like lighten the text font weight. Yeah, see, it's already looking way better now. One more thing we can do is like maybe we can like give it a some form of like margin and like spacing. Yeah, it's too clumsy, right? It's too clumsy. So we can do is like maybe okay, in lead we can oh sorry, I seems like I forgot to make so let's make every label to be a class of lead. Okay. And then perhaps add a margin y of 2 or maybe margin top of 2. No, now it has got some spacing or maybe 3. So now it has some form of spacing. You get the idea. Okay. So okay, now the button looks a bit off. So we can fix that. Maybe create one more division and place the button in the division. Then what we can do is give this a class name of once again mx auto. We can do it, right? Oh sorry, it's not a mx auto. We can have to do it. It's text center to center line the button, but it's too tight, so perhaps we would also use my3 to give it some spacing, or yeah, mi4 more spacing. In case of a button, we all could do is go to class, give it a button, and maybe a button, whatever, what you say. Okay, let's see what are the buttons available. So in Bootstrap, okay, so these are the all possible buttons quickly available in Bootstrap, although you can style it customly obviously. But as of now, let's just pick primary. Okay. Or maybe dark. Okay, button dark. How to use button dark? To use button dark, we're gonna use this. Okay. So we're gonna do copy this, paste it here, and we should be good to go. Yeah, it looks like this now. One more thing we can do is add a padding and make it more rounded. Oh, but it's already rounded. No need to do that. Okay, seems kind of cool. Maybe we can add a border, not a border radius. Maybe add a border radius of maybe 50 pixel. Yeah. Okay. 5. Okay. So this is the stuff that we are going to do. Okay, now our h1 is like, okay, just let it be. We can do a display though, but that would make this text way large, I guess. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's sort of, yeah, it's kind of big. Yeah, but doesn't matter. Okay, so I have this, so I can now maybe pick INR. For an amount, I can choose maybe any random value 465, and maybe convert it to anything. Oh, not to INR at least. Maybe anything. I don't know. Okay, and this is going to give me the output over here. Now the output is, yeah, we can also further style the output maybe. So the way we can style it is just by same maybe we can just make another maybe another h1 class again that display 4 conversions. Okay, I misspelled it, conversions. And this sure can have a class of maybe maybe just like this, mx auto, and not mx auto, maybe a type text center, or okay, maybe just be mx auto, and let's just give it a style just like this. Of course, we can use a style sheet for it, but yeah. As of now, let's just keep things simple. Just do it. Okay. Conversions are done. Looks okayish. Not too great, not too bad, but at least way better than before. Okay. So now you have your conversions. Whenever you do a conversion, you get your results. Okay, we'll do it one last time. I get my result, or maybe I can do a class of container. Because this looks pretty off. Maybe placing these things inside a container would make sense, right? Okay, kind of nice. Again. Okay, so now we have our conversions going on. Okay, cool. Or maybe just get rid of this. Okay, just keep it simple. You get that. Okay, right? All right. Is there anything else we can do or we should do? Is like we can maybe something. Okay, let's do one more thing because I noticed that there is something missing or something up happened. Okay, so what we can do is maybe like whenever we do this, see, I shouldn't be getting this INR or this. Yeah, I can do this or yeah, I can also get rid of this INR if you want. So in case if you want to get rid of this INR, what you're gonna do is uh okay, here, come here. Okay, now you have your base value, right? So select from value is your base value. So all you can do is where it is response dot rate INR dot rate. So just add an if condition over here that if select dot value is not equals to rate, or perhaps the opposite way makes more readability. If rate is not equal to select from value, then do this. Otherwise we can just skip it, and this should fix the problem of like having duplicated element. Convert, and yeah, we get only the conversion, right? All right, so that's pretty much it. So this is like within less than an hour probably. We let's revisit again. We started from here and it ended up here. Don't you feel like a better programmer now? All right, so we have made it. Great. Within a very less amount of time, you now have all those informations and the resources and the idea at least to like start making your own command line application, expand up to a scale of so that like at least to the browser scale at least, so that you can run these things on web. And yeah, you can have some basic fun activities with it. Probably try building more about this. Yeah, I will post this code into my GitHub repo and we'll link it down in the description. Do have a check it out. Feel free to clone it, pull it, or do whatever you want to do with it. Yeah, feel free to extend that, and let me know how this how this videos was for you, whether or not you like this kind of straight to the point content where we will talk how to become a good like a better programmer. All right, so yeah, if you like this content, consider liking it, and yes, subscribing to this channel. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I would be happy. All right, so thank you. As always, I will see you in the next one.